A proposal favored by some conservative Republicans to give Kansas governors and lawmakers more power over appointments to the state's appellate courts cleared a key legislative committee this week. The measure would amend the Kansas Constitution to allow governors to appoint whomever they choose to the State Court of Appeals and Supreme Court, subject to Senate confirmation. It's an issue we tackled in depth on KCPT's The Local Show last night.
In 2005, the state Supreme Court ruled Kansas wasn't spending enough money on education and ordered the legislature to come up with $290 million more. Conservative Republicans, saying the court was legislating from the bench, were furious.
I think that the thing that was motivating a lot of this was school finance.
Crystal Marquardt just retired last week from the Court of Appeals, and she agrees this proposed constitutional change is a power grab to control the future of school finance.
Why you? Why the Court of Appeals? Why now?
Because the governor, I think, believes at this point that he's got the political clout to get done what he wants to get done. And maybe he does.
But current Senate Vice President Jeff King couldn't disagree more. He says this is about more democracy and fewer lawyers.
So the criticism that this all goes back to school funding, out of play.
Can I say for sure what everyone's motivation is? I can certainly say for my own, this has nothing to do with school funding. This has nothing to do with any one case, nor should it.
Do you think that there has been scandal or infamy within the Court of Appeals or Supreme Court justices? I mean, has there been something that would say, you know what, we have to change the Constitution to make this better?
I have not personally known of any scandal or anything improper in the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court. I think our Supreme Court justices and our Court of Appeals judges are good men and women that have done a good job.
There's little doubt a constitutional amendment to change the way appellate court judges are picked is going to pass the Kansas legislature and most likely appear on the ballot in August of next year. Setting up, former Senator John Brattle says, an expensive and ugly campaign.
No doubt in my mind that's what will happen. There will be massive amounts of money raised and spent in campaigning for and against that constitutional amendment.
Where's the money going to come from?
It's going to come from the Koch brothers in Wichita. It'll be unlike any constitutional amendment campaign that I've seen in my lifetime.
And not only Koch money, but he says millions of dollars from trial lawyers and other special interests. But Senator King says now is the time to have this debate.
My hope and belief as an elected official in the state of Kansas is that the voters of Kansas can see through the negative misinformation and get to the valid points of the issue.
A lot of definitive language in that report. This is going to be unlike any constitutional amendment campaign that I've seen in my lifetime, as we just heard in that report. So is this a done deal? We're going to be heading to the polling stations?
Well, it looks like that. Now, there is some thought that Democrats and moderate Republicans in the House of Representatives may be able to erect a wall to keep the constitutional amendment from going through. If it's going to be stopped, that's where it's going to be stopped. But I think most people believe it is going to make it through both houses. It's already passed out of the House Judiciary Committee and yesterday passed out of the Senate Judiciary Committee. So now it's heading to the floor. I think it will pass out of both houses, but it may be stopped in the House.
But this was going to be, and in that report talking about it being next year on the ballot, this was going to be, they were talking about April of this year. Why the delay now?
Well, they have pushed it off, maybe to build support for what they want to do here, Nick, down the road. You know, the folks who oppose this face a very difficult hurdle in that, you know, what Governor Brownback wants to do is to, appoint these with confirmation from the Senate. That's exactly what happens out in Washington, D.C. The president, gets to name someone, and then the Senate has to confirm that person. Going against that idea, that's a tough argument to make because it's what's happening in Washington, D.C. Governor Brownback doesn't want anything different than what is already being done at a national level. So fighting this is going to be a very tough thing to do.
I would say if this goes to the ballot, it may be one of the most amazing campaigns that Kansas has ever seen. because the conservatives in the state, the Koch brothers, others, will spend hundreds of thousands, Americans for Prosperity, millions of dollars. But the lawyers who like the current system are not hiding their lights under bushels either. And they can be expected to pour hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars into the opposition to a constitutional amendment. So the outcome will be fascinating if it gets on the ballot, because it isn't clear that Kansans may not like the way the judges make their decisions, Nick, but amending the Constitution to hand all of that power over to the governor is going to be a very, very tough sell.
And just to reiterate, this just didn't come out of nowhere. In fact, the people of the state of Kansas have spoken on this. They spoke in 1958. There was a constitutional amendment after a scandal, the triple play. It moved, the constitutional amendment moved through the legislature very rapidly. 1958, it's on the ballot. It passes with 58% of the vote. So this notion that there is no democracy, in some ways democracy has already been interjected in the system. My relatives, your relatives have already said yes to the current system that we have.
And you see a lot more of that, of course, in the bigger report on this, which you can see in the repeat of the local show, 5:30 on Sunday. But Mary, if the goal here is to change the justices on the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court, by doing this in a constitutional amendment, it would take an awfully long time to actually wait for vacancies on these courts. And then even after that time, we know even at the federal level that you never know what you're going to get when it comes to putting somebody on the court. You don't know if you're going to get the decisions you want.
Absolutely. And this is one of these, be careful what you hope for or what you're pushing for or campaigning for or throwing all your money at in 2013, because it is. I mean, these impacts are long-term. And we'll see. I mean, I think the messaging is going to be, really phenomenal and interesting to see how each side pushes it.
But conservatives in Kansas are playing the long game here, Nick.
Yeah.
They're very, very confident of long-term control of the State House and of the governor's office, so I don't think they mind playing that long-term game.
And unlike the federal system, Kansas judges do have to stand for retention. Now, a Kansas judge at the Supreme Court level, appeals court level, there's never been a vote to not retain them. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden you couldn't start having campaigns, as we saw in Iowa last year,
on gay rights, on gay marriage,
to say, you know what? You may not, all of you may have withstood retention heretofore, but that was before we put, I don't know, $500,000 into a campaign to boot you off